Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mormonish. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Landon.
And we're back. Oh my goodness. There's been a lot of craziness over the last couple days, hasn't there, Landon?
There certainly has been, not only on the show, but in personal life too. So it's been
Everything.
it's
Everything
been a
went to
very
hell in a
difficult couple
handbasket. Yeah,
days. Yep.
it has, but we're here because we're not going to let anybody down, right? Including
That's right.
ourselves. We love to podcast, especially when we have a really interesting topic. So, yeah, just to catch everybody up, we put out an episode last Thursday night with RFM. I think a lot of you saw it. It was about an apologist group, an LDS apologist group called the Cavalry, who interact with missionaries and investigators. And there were some questions about that we went into in an episode that we put out. And I think some people weren't too happy with what we had revealed or put out. So my Facebook was, flagged and shut down. And there was a while there where I was flying by blind. I was having total FOMO over, I've got to post this. And I try to get other people to post it for me, but everybody stepped up in the community. And this is the main thing I want to say is just, what an awesome community you guys are. I had so many people reach out to me and say, hey, let me try to help you get this back up. Let me try to, help you interact with Facebook. Let me try to help you with this. And Facebook is where we do most of our contacting with everybody. So it was important that we got it back. And so finally this morning, I did, which is great. And I'm hoping that, nothing else happens. I know that our video itself has sort of been flagged in a way that it cannot be shared. We did not do that. Someone else is in there interacting with the interface. We have no idea. So if you would like to see that video, you can go right to Mormonish YouTube channel. It can't really be shared in a public group. I think it might be able to be shared in a private group. But again, obviously we must have hit a nerve or something because some people are kind of trying to cause some problems. But thank you to everybody who supported us and stayed with us through the last 48 hours. It was kind of weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got a lot of support. Really appreciated
We
a
did.
lot of
We
kind
did.
emails and
Yeah.
messages, and we really appreciate everyone. And take an opportunity to, instead of share it, just introduce people to our site, and
Oh, yeah,
hopefully
that's true.
they get to see more of our content from that. So
I know. I kind of thought, what if every single thing that we did got shut down, all of our platforms? And I thought, that's okay. I would go down in a blaze of glory for this topic. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? Is raise awareness and let people know about things that are happening. So, hopefully, like a phoenix, we would rise again. But if it happened, I guess it just happened. That's how you have to look at it.
well, and if anything, it showed that the information we were providing was probably accurate. That
Yeah.
people were so upset within the group that they attempted to shut it down. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the burning of the press with Joseph Smith when polygamy was coming,
Ooh.
and that led to his downfall. So we'll see what
Wow.
happens.
Are you saying I'm Jane Law and you're
Yes,
William? Is that?
exactly. I'm William Law.
I love it. That gives it some kind of historical significance.
That's
So,
right. We're
good. But we are back and we have I think, a pretty interesting topic that kind of has to do with temples, but not really. So it's going to be fascinating. Let's pull up our slides. I think you
okay.
guys are going to find this really interesting.
Yep, we're back to our favorite place, McKinney, Texas.
Yeah, it seems like everything happens in McKinney. Well, Fairview and McKinney, two cities together, two sister cities. And in this case, of course, the McKinney Texas Temple is being built in the town of Fairview. And it's 43,000 square feet, 173-foot tall spire. Although Landon has now said the best way to say it is what? Above ground, right?
Yeah,
Is that the
above
more
ground.
official?
Yep.
Yeah, from the ground to the top is going to be 173 feet. And it was announced on the 2nd of October, 2022.
And I think what
So,
you said there is real important because you have to understand this for this to make sense,
right.
because this is called the McKinney Temple, but it's being built in Fairview.
Mhm.
That's right next door to McKinney, but they're calling it the McKinney Temple, which is, a bit of a contentious thing with the town itself. So what we're going to be talking about is what's happening in McKinney itself,
That's
and
right.
with McKinney Planning and Zoning Board, which is a different planning and zoning board than
Fairview.
recommended not to build the temple in Fairview. So it
Correct.
was the Fairview Town Planning and Zoning Commission that recommended not building the Texas Temple in Fairview. But we're going to be talking about now what the McKinney Planning and Zoning Board is
Yeah.
doing.
It's just crazy. And I think let's go to the next slide. I think I have a headline like that kind of says that. So yeah, there's just craziness everywhere. Okay. So Landon's absolutely correct. We are going to be talking about McKinney and to establish their involvement in the Fairview procedures where the temple is going to be built. How many letters do you think we've shown that have gone out to McKinney stakes,
Seems like every
surrounding
week
stakes?
there's a new one.
Every week there's a new letter. That's right, because they're definitely trying to mobilize the LDS members in McKinney as well as Fairview to show overwhelming support for the temple. Now, as Landon pointed out, it is the Fairview Planning and Zoning and the Fairview City Council that are interacting with, the church lawyers. They're the ones that have to vote. They're the ones that will probably be sued. But McKinney is also, I would say, intimately involved in the process because the people are so close, right? So close in proximity.
I prefer not to call these letters, but epistles.
Oh,
just like Paul,
Yeah.
they're just so full of, such good information.
I might almost call them
of canonization.
That's right. I almost call them edicts. This is what you will do, right? So just yesterday, I got a copy of this letter. It's not only going out to the McKinney stake. I got this letter as of this morning from 8 different people representing 8 different stakes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the area, if you can picture, that this letter is going out to as far as the LDS requesting support as we come up against the meeting on August 6th, where the Fairview Town Council is going to vote yes or no on allowing the temple to be built. So it's just another one of those letters, but we thought just to show the involvement of McKinney before we start talking about McKinney itself, let's just go through this letter very quickly. So I'll read the first one and then you can read, I think there's a couple pages. So it says, McKinney, Texas State, dear brothers, dear sisters and brothers. I love the way they do that. They're trying to be so politically
edgy. Put the sisters in front. Yes. They never put the sisters up front except for in the letter.
Never. That's exactly right. They won't put them on the stand, but they will list them first in a letter. Should we say that?
Yes.
That's it. So it says, throughout history, the building of temples has required sacrifice. Of course it has. We have all those stories. These sacrifices, whether great or small, demonstrate our commitment to our Heavenly Father and our desire to have a sacred space where we can draw closer to Him and His Son, Jesus Christ. As we work through the approval process for the McKinney Temple, because it's a process, and as we mentioned before, already the Planning and Zoning has voted no. So the LDS members are like, what is happening? All this stuff is happening. We humbly ask for your continued support and effort over the next few weeks leading up to the Fairview Town Council meeting on August 6th. This is the big show. Landon and I are going to be there. We'll talk about that later. We would like to invite you to help in the following ways. So they're going to outline some things that they want everyone in McKinney, Fairview, and all those other 8 stakes and probably more that received this letter.
Not some things, some sacrifices. They're going to list the sacrifices that they want. Yeah.
Yeah. These are the sacrifices that you're going to have to give. So the first thing that they want you to do is fasting. So all members across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are being invited to fast on Sunday, August 4th. There have been several fasts. There have been multiple fasts, right? And the fasts.
These are going to be the skinniest saints I've ever seen because I think they fast every month for this.
Yeah, that's our picture there. Some very slender elders because, the letters that we've read before, the fast is so that the hearts will be softened, right? The hearts must be softened because everyone's just being mean. It's not that they're trying to follow their town's already in place zoning regulations. They're just being mean, right? So soften the hearts. Also, the work of the adversary. Because the reasons temples aren't being allowed to be built is the adversary. So we've got to fast for these things. Stop the adversary, soften the hearts, pray for understanding. So
they never fast that the church might do something that would help solve the problem. It's always that others will do something to resolve it.
I feel like, if they were into fasting, that the Fairview Town Council could say, we're going to fast that the LDS members will just bring us a proposal that we can rubber stamp and start building tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's have a fast for that.
I call for a fast for the Fairview Town Council members that they, will fast, that the hearts of the LDS will let them just bring them a plan
that's
that
acceptable and will relieve all of the issues and all of the heated debates and all the other things can easily be solved if the church just brings a plan that conforms with the zoning requirements.
Yeah. So let's think about that. We might want to write a letter. Anyway, so our collective fast, another one, will be dedicated to several important intentions for the contention to cease. Okay. Apparently there's contention. We know there's contention. And the contention to cease, for truth to prevail. Okay. Well, in this case, truth is, I guess, sort of relative. People see this in different ways, different perspectives.
And by truth prevail, they mean their truth prevail.
Yes. Of course they do. Of course they do. And here's the very interesting one. For added courage and strength for the Fairview ward, especially for its youth, as they return to school in an increasingly contentious environment. Okay, so why is that? Why is there a possible contentious environment in the school setting for these LDS youth?
Well, the fact that the church came in and violated all of or wants to completely change all of the building codes, and then did so with their lawyers who threatened to sue, and then met with the city and claimed that the city rejected their significant what they call those significant concessions, which was cut 15 feet off the top and cut the tip off and call it the Fairview Temple instead of the McKinney Temple. That was their significant concessions when they're almost twice as tall as the code allows for the building, and then almost 5 times higher than what's allowed with the steeple height added in there. So, and then they also sent out flyers that were quite honestly deceitful. They said it was a 2-story building that met all the zoning codes, which it did not. That's why they're asking for a conditional use permit and a variance, is because they are asking to vary from the zoning. And so they led everyone to believe that it already met all of the requirements when it did not, which is why the Planning and Zoning Board voted it down, was because it did not meet those requirements. The other issues have nothing to do with it. But I think this goes a little further. I think this is possibly another legal maneuver, because one of the things they sent out a letter recently, another Rupa letter, that says, oh, if people are attacking them or groups are attacking them, then it looks like religious bigotry, and then they can make the claim that they were denied it because of religious bigotry. So this is what we call in the sports world a flop. They go and they do all of this, they raise all this contention, and then they go, oh, we're being persecuted, fall down and say, oh, courts, help us, we're being persecuted. They won't let us build because of our religious beliefs, when it's actually the way that they are interacting with their community, which is horrible. And we're going to see how other churches might do that in this case, or how they react with this same situation happening to them.
Yeah, and I had not thought of that, but you're absolutely right. And there was an interesting article in the Times and Seasons about fanning the flames of religious persecution again. And I can't state this more clearly. This has nothing to do with religion at all. This is simply a building that doesn't fit the planning and zoning. Please don't build it. That's it. We don't care who you are at all. But this statement, increasingly contentious environment. Was there a contentious environment last year? No. What changed? Somebody tried to build a building, everything that Landon just outlined. So that's very interesting. Again, they're involving the youth, and they're going to claim persecution when that is not what's happening at all. But again, this is early church stuff. If you want to know what happened in the early days of the church and why there was a, quote, mob, you're seeing it in real time. You're seeing communities trying to stand up and say, can we just do something else that fits in with our plan for our community? And then you're seeing people cry religious persecution. All right, last sentence. An important element of living the law of the fast is to deal thy bread to the hungry in Isaiah. All members are invited to pay a generous fast offering. Okay, so not only do you fast, but again, we're paying a fast offering. And all this has to do with the temple.
So right now you're supposed to fast, not eat for 24 hours, and you're supposed to pay,
And you're supposed to pay some money.
a generous fast offering, all to get the building built. So far, interesting tactic. I do want to say one thing about the religious persecution is they've framed this in such a manner that, if you follow that Times and Season article, basically the church can send 15,000 people to storm, to send letters, and they're going to send 3,000 people to storm the city council meeting, take up all the seats, not let anybody else get into the building. This is what they're going to do. But if 10 people stand up and say, we don't want this building, it's religious bigotry and religious persecution.
Exactly.
So they can come in and share their testimony and tell you how they feel. They can write letters saying how important the temple is to them. But if anyone sends a response that says anything contrary to that, it's religious bigotry again. And then they are going to claim that they can sue because they're being persecuted again. They twist this so that there is no way that anybody could possibly say anything against them without it being considered some sort of legal challenge that they can make. And that's what they're doing. They're framing it so they can go after all these different legal challenges. Persecution. We were persecuted. There's people are denying it simply because of our religion.
Right.
The temple spire is important to us. Every one of these is a legal argument. There is no other argument here. Everything they're doing is to legally challenge.
Yep, the mass of the walls, the height of the steeple. And I think this might be a good time to mention, in talking to the residents there in Fairview, that particular piece of ground, they have defended it and challenged buildings that had nothing to do with any religion. This is not out of the ordinary for them to say, meet our zoning, right? We were just reading about a medical building. Isn't that right, Landon?
Yeah, they actually it was attempted to be rezoned many times. They tried to put a medical plaza there. Mm-hmm. They tried to redo it as office and multifamily housing. Mm-hmm. The people stood up and fought against that. They ended up putting churches on it. The people wanted it to be a residential area. They protested those two. That was the LDS church, and there was another church also that's built on there that they protested, trying to keep it residential, purely residential.
Yes.
The Planning and Zoning Board in both cases said no, churches are allowed in there, but they were reasonable churches. They met the heights of, the 35 to 40 foot roof height and a steeple that's 50 to 60 feet tall, not 60 foot tall buildings with 170 foot. Nothing anywhere close to this size has been ever approved or considered. So multiple times, this land by multiple people, and they were turned down because of the size of the project and because they were trying to keep it country, which is the motto of Fairview. So they have their zoning laws in place to have a particular feel for this community, and they want to keep it that way. And the citizens have been fighting that and fighting to preserve it since 2005. So
that's exactly right. And they were not discriminating against the medical building. They were not discriminating against the office park building. And they are not discriminating here. They're simply trying to keep it country with their rural zoning regulations. So, but yeah, you're right. It's a tactic. Okay. You want to finish or keep going on this? What else? Yeah. What else are they supposed to do here?
They're supposed to sign the online petition. If you have not signed the online petition to show support for the temple, we invite you to do so at the following link. And then they go there.
Yeah. And this link goes out everywhere. People sign this petition from all around the world. All roads lead to Fairview, right?
Yes. As if, as if everyone else in the world is going to write anything in opposition, only the people who are impacted in Fairview. And this was one of the sad things we saw in Las Vegas when they approved it, was we saw the city councilwoman sit up there and say, here's she had a visual, 5,000 for and only 2,700 against. She never said how many
stacks
of those
of emails with a sign that said opposition and support.
And support.
And she put her hands on. Of course there are more in support because of this. with the touch of a button, every stake in the tri-state area is ordered and told to write an email. Of course, it means nothing.
And she never said how many of those support of the 2,700 were in her ward, which is the area they represent,
Right,
not an
local.
LDS ward, but a political ward. I'm guessing that a large portion of the 2,700 who were in opposition were locals who were directly impacted, while a majority of the 5,000 were people who were not from within her ward. Had she compared the numbers of her ward, I would have loved to seen that number. She probably would have found something completely different.
Yep.
We did a nice meme because we can't forget the fact that the supporters had offered $10,000 through the church's lawyers to support the temple, and the opposition
campaign
presented
contributions
nothing.
is what we're talking about. Campaign
You
contributions.
should have sat there with a pile of $10,000 on one hand and zero on the other and said supporters and opposition, because that's really what that came down to.
That's it.
Next one, send emails. If you've not sent an email to the Fairview town manager to express support for the temple, we invite you to do so, if you so desire. The email writing instructions are provided in the attachment. And of course, this tells you exactly what to say.
Yep.
And as of last time, they sent at the last minute thousands of emails to the town.
13,500 or something like that. They were trying to get
overwhelming the town. The town has to document all of this and has to stop all their other work in order to deal with all of these, all from non-residents. You know, a city is staffed based on the size of its residents.
Yeah.
So when you have a church that is sending in more people than the town even has in the town to write letters to it, it's overwhelming the town. I don't see how they think this is a good idea to, if anything, this is going to upset the citizens that they have to waste their time on this.
Yep. And it tips their hand. It shows this mobilization, this sleeper cell effect, where a touch of a button and you can get 15,000 emails and people go, what is this group? What is happening?
The next is attend the Fairview Town Council meeting on August 6th. Details for attending the council meeting in person or attending a watch party. They're evidently going to have a watch party.
That's new. That's new.
At the Stake Center. If you're unable to drive to Fairview, can be found in the attachment. So here they are.
I like our AI.
Yes, it's a big football watch party, all going,
in a Stake Center.
Fairview!
In a Stake Center. Temple.
But they're telling people to drive to Fairview to inundate the city. The city now has to buy a purchase and rent a larger facility because the town
at their expense.
Can't hold this at their expense, so they can hear all of these people who are not part of their city come and say how they want to break all of your zoning codes. What a blessing to the community to have that. But then they're going to have a watch party where they all get together and watch it.
Yeah,
but
and again, this is in every stake. I got this letter 8 times. And I'm sure there's more than just 8. Every stake is having everybody go to the Stake Center and watch this.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they say, and this is important, regardless of the outcome of the town council vote on August 6th, please remember that challenges are often part of the temple building process, and rest assured that we are proceeding with the Texas state and federal religious freedom laws. We're suing their ass if they don't pass it. So be ready. So we want you to fast that the Lord will change their heart. But don't worry, if that doesn't work, the lawyers are ready to solve the problem for you. So don't really have to have that much faith in your fast, because the lawyers are going to take care of the problem. Rest assured, we will sue. And then they wonder why there's contention.
I know. No, this is just, it's so laughable.
They're fasting to remove the contention, and at the same time they're saying, and as soon as we don't get what we want, we'll sue. So don't worry. But it'd be nice if people weren't contentious and weren't angry at us.
We humbly beg from the bottoms of our heart. We just want to be good neighbors. I hear this phrase. I mean, I listen to a lot of this content over and over and over, but this line says, we're going to sue your ass.
But don't worry.
We're just getting crazy over this.
They go to the words of Elder Neil L. Anderson from the past April General Conference.
Oh, I had to put, wait, go back. I had to put that in there because I
Oh.
figured if there is going to be a watch party at a stake center, you also need cheerleaders,
Cheerleaders.
Temple,
Temple.
Temple. I used to be on drill team, not a cheerleader. So don't critique my technique.
You want to read what Elder Anderson said?
Yeah. Here we go. My beloved friends, if we are able and have not already increased our attendance at the temple, let us regularly find more time to worship in the house of the Lord. Let us pray for the temples that have been announced, that properties can be purchased, that governments will approve plans, that talented workers will see their gifts magnified, and that the sacred dedications will bring the approval of heaven and the visit of angel. Who's angel? That's what we were trying to figure out. Which angel? What angel? The only thing I could really think of is, the angel of music. Are you familiar with this one, Landon?
Oh, you are the angel of
you have to go music.
Christine.
Christine. That's right. I don't know. The angels will come, I guess. That's it. Then it says we encourage you to...
I'm guessing right now that the Fairview Town and the Fairview Town Council is going, oh my gosh, the angels of Satan have descended upon our
They
town.
may be seeing a different kind of angel. Yeah.
They may not see the same type of angels, but I love how it says that governments will approve plans. He never says that the church will submit plans that
meet the government's already,
the government's requirements, because the government is required to approve the plan as long as you submit a plan that is
they couldn't say no
in accordance with their zoning laws.
Yep. And we did an episode about that, about the Yoralinda Temple that meets all requirements, the size, everything that could plop right down there today and everything could be happening. So, all right. We encourage you to view the following website for up-to-date information on the temple. And that's that McKinney Texas Temple website.org that we have shown before, full of a lot of talking points to kind of arm LDS members as they're interacting in their community. Thank you for your continued efforts and sacrifices as we build this temple in our community. Warm regards, McKinney State President. And again, this letter went out over and over and over. And I was going to make one point about the slide before where the letter said, we face challenges. These happen. Always challenges, right? They know this is what's happening. And of course, I heard this story from someone who was in the know with one of our former prophets who sort of lamented the fact. He said, when we build the stake centers, there's never a problem. We go in and we build them in neighborhoods, because we're trying to build residential. He goes, it's always when we build the temples. That's when the adversary starts working. And I'm thinking, no, that's when you put something out there that is so egregiously beyond any code or zoning that towns have to fight back. It's not the adversary, but I guess people can't see it. It's a persecution complex. So anyway, this letter went out to everybody. And then there was a attachment that went with it with more specifics about the email and different things, locations for where the watch parties will be. But they're definitely all mobilized now, preparing for this August 6th meeting. So the next picture I have here is just from the past. McKinney Residents attend the Fairview P&Z board meeting. So as we're trying to say, there's this very close relationship. It is the McKinney Temple being built in Fairview. So McKinney residents go over to Fairview to the city council member. You can see them there wearing white. They've been told to wear white again in the attachment to that letter. And we just saw in that letter, it said, descend on the town, right? Didn't it say that?
Yeah. Oh.
Get in your car, drive to the town, from an hour away. Go there.
And for a town that's motto is keeping it country, the last thing they want to see is 5,000-6,000 people coming into their town. That's supposed to be a small country town, Phil.
Yeah, I'm
and telling them how to build their town.
I know. I feel I don't know if we'll even be able to drive close to the venue when we're down there. I'm not even sure. So having tried to establish this relationship with the McKinney residents, the McKinney town, and Fairview, where they are over in Fairview saying, we want the temple. We know it's taller than the zoning. We know it's bigger than the zoning. We know it's lighter than the zoning. We know there's traffic, but we want that temple. Okay. Now what's going on over in McKinney itself as far as building?
Where all these residents are coming from.
Where all these residents are coming from to show support for the temple. They've just received letters to show support for the temple, its height, its mass, the parking lot, all the things about that building. So now what does this headline say, Landon?
It says dozens of McKinney residents speak against eyesore mosque moving in next door. A plan for a 37,000 square foot mosque, which is smaller than the temple, was denied unanimously at the Planning and Zoning Commission due to size concerns, commission members said.
So this is a headline. And then there's another article we're going to be drawing from that I have on the next slide. This one says, community members speak out against proposed mosque in West McKinney. And these temples of the mosque that I'm showing are a similar mosque. This is in Irvine, in the area. The mosque they're proposing to build will look similar to this. We didn't have any pictures of what the actual plans were, but this picture was used in all the newspapers to show that this is what it's going to look like. Yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting scenario. There's no way to say if any of these people that are speaking out or opposing are people that are showing support for the temple right next door. I don't know. It's an interesting scenario, don't you think?
Yeah. And, I got to imagine that the church is probably going to have its lawyers now write, friends of the court briefs trying to get the mosque approved in McKinney in order to make an argument that, oh, yes, this needs to apply everywhere, Rupa. Yep. And now all the McKinney people are going to be fighting against the church
a very good
coming in against their planning and zoning.
Yep, that's a good point. The church should support this building of this mosque because this is exactly the kind of what they're trying to do in the town next door. So let's kind of go through some of the details. Just a really interesting juxtaposition here. So it says McKinney Islamic Association President Samad Saeed said that the organization, which has been in McKinney since 2013, is looking to build a new facility to serve the growing population. The organization purchased the land in November of 2022. The current facility, located on El Dorado Parkway near Hardin Boulevard, has 45 parking spaces, only 45. And the organization partnered with a nearby grocery store to utilize additional spaces in their lot, Saeed said. So it sounds like they're really outgrowing the space, which is why they're trying to build. Unlike, I would have to say, the Dallas Temple, which is very underutilized, could probably accommodate every LDS person that wanted to attend, right? I mean, I'm just guessing there. Okay. Richard Brown, the architect for the project, said the facility's sanctuary space would be able to accommodate between 500 and 600 people, and the facility would include a prayer areas, educational spaces, meeting space, and a gymnasium. The site would also have about 300 parking spots, he said. So I can't remember, what is the proposed parking spots for the McKinney Temple in Fairview? I get mixed up with all the different.
I thought it was around 500.
I was going to say 512, something like that.
They're utilizing the stake center next door as well.
Exactly,
so there's
exactly,
an
for the
immense
McKinney
amount
Temple.
of parking.
Yep.
Yeah.
The facility will host prayer 5 times a day with between 10 and 40 people at each session, Saeed said, as well as larger prayer sessions on Friday afternoon. So this is what they're proposing. This is what their community needs because they're expanding. Okay. What does this say, Landon?
NIMBY, not in my backyard, which is what we hear from the LDS residents in McKinney saying, all these NIMBY people saying, not in my backyard. We all have to make sacrifices.
Yep. We're accused of being NIMBY. All the residents are accused of being NIMBY. If you haven't had that word before, heard it before, it does mean not in my backyard, meaning that is the only reason that the residents could find to be opposed to the temple, not the massive height, not the, the lighting, the parking lot, everything that goes against all their zoning codes that are already there. So this is a picture again of the mosque in the other town, but it'll be similar to this. And then on the right is a picture of the plot of land that they already own, where they would like to be able to build this mosque. And they're approaching the McKinney Planning and Zoning Board with their plans to try to get approved so that they can break ground and start building this mosque in the community. All right, why don't you read this next part?
More than 60 McKinney residents flooded the chambers of City Planning and Zoning Commission meeting earlier this month, the majority of whom spoke against a proposed mosque that would sit adjacent to their neighborhood. A rezoning application submitted by the McKinney Islamic Association would allow for the construction of a 37,000 square foot mosque on 5 acres at the corner of Virginia Parkway and Crutcher Crossing. Residents of the Stonebrook Crossing neighborhood said Crutcher Crossing is one of only 2 entrances to their community, and recent developments have already led to an increase in traffic and street congestion. A worship center would add to that strain, many speakers said, while voicing their opposition.
And that's so interesting because we hear that about the McKinney Temple in Fairview, right? We hear that from the residents that there are, problems with entrances, there are problems with traffic flow, things like that. And the LDS residents and other people say it's all totally fine. It's going to be just fine. Yeah. It's an interesting juxtaposition. And again, we don't know that any LDS are in McKinney opposing the mosque, but it's interesting to weigh the two against each other. So let's look at a comparison between the McKinney LDS Temple and the McKinney Islamic Association Mosque. So why don't you read the stats on the temple and then I'll read the stats on the mosque.
Okay, the temple is on 8.16 acres, has one attached spire. The square footage is 43,200 square feet, and the height is 173 feet 9 inches.
Okay, so
and I think we ought to add that the roof height is 60 feet.
The roof height is 60 feet
to the height, and then the steeple goes to 173.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, we've heard in the rhetoric from the church that the mass of the walls is part of their religious observance. So that massive roof height should be considered to be something that they absolutely cannot worship without. We've heard things like the celestial room has to be on the second floor. We've heard Jesus lives on the second floor in a leaked recording. Remember that? So They definitely need that high roof height there. And again, everybody seems to be okay with that. That's all right. That's against all the codes, but it's okay. That should be allowed to be built, right?
According to the LDS, yes.
According to the LDS.
The McKinney and the McKinney residents, the LDS McKinney residents,
Yep, that's right. Okay. So now for the mosque in McKinney, where it looks like they're trying to say, I don't think so. The total floor area is 37,000 square feet. So it's about, 5,000-6,000 square feet smaller than the temple. The architectural feature is a dome on top, as we saw from those pictures, and the height is 45 feet for the whole thing. Is that greater or less than even the roof height of the walls of the temple?
Yeah, no, that's 15 feet shorter.
Yes.
That's a significant concession, 15 feet
shorter. Uh-oh.
The roof is significantly shorter because the roof line of the mosque would be even shorter than that. The dome goes to 45 feet.
Yeah.
But the roof height's probably around 35 feet, which is meets residential requirements. So this is smaller than the stake center that is in Fairview, which is significantly smaller than the temple that's going to be built. So this building here would comply with the building codes in Fairview for that lot.
That's true. They could build this mosque on the temple site right now, couldn't they? I think they could. And I think we figured out that this mosque would fit inside the temple.
Yes. Yep. It would.
And the temple up to the spire is 4 times taller than the mosque. So again, interesting. McKinney residents, LDS are fine with the temple. And then here we have this going on in McKinney. Whether or not LDS are involved, we don't know. But they're kind of saying, no, we don't want this. Very different architecture. Okay. McKinney staff recommends that the request be approved. And how it kind of works, we're learning so much about these processes, aren't we, in planning and zoning, is that the members of the staff of a town, city, kind of look at the application, kind of go through it, try to understand it. And like in Cody, right? You had the LDS city planner helping the planning and zoning board understand the application, right? Helping, I say in quotes. And so if staff recommends it, it means that they're saying to the planning and zoning board, we've looked at this, it seems like it meets this and this and this, and it would be okay to approve. Is that how you understand a staff recommendation?
Yeah. The staff looks at all the laws and all the requirements. Do they meet it? And then they say, we don't see any reason that we should not allow this.
Yeah. So they recommended to the P&Z board, you can go ahead and approve this. So it says the proposed zoning is similar to the existing zoning in regards to requirements for parking, screening, and permitted uses, but differs primarily in the requirements related to building size, said Jake Bennett, a planner with the city of McKinney. See, this is what we saw in Cody. The city planner interprets all the codes and lets the P&Z board know where they stand. Of course, in Cody, the board was manipulated, and that's what the lawsuit ongoing was about. Something illegal happened.
Yeah,
The
they
residents
alleged they were manipulated.
Yes,
and
they were. Sorry, we need to say alleged. They were alleged. I keep forgetting to use that word, but that's always what I mean. City staff recommended that the request be approved due to the adjacency of a signalized intersection along Virginia Parkway, the existing natural buffer of a wooded creek along the southern border of the property, and minimal changes between the existing and proposed zoning, Bennett said. So sounds like
that's important too. If you look back at this picture, you can see there's actually a creek along the back of those houses and trees. So there's actually a barrier between the houses, which is not something that you're getting with the LDS temple.
Yeah, exactly. So staff said to the Planning and Zoning Board, yeah, you could approve it if you'd like. What happened next, Landon?
Yep. The commission recommended that the rezoning request be denied. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission, which would take a city council supermajority to overrule. Same condition that's happening in the town council meeting on August 6th, because the Planning and Zoning Commission in Fairview recommended that the temple not be approved in that case. While the Mosque zoning is supposed to appear on the council's August 6th agenda, the exact night that all the McKinney residents are going to
say yes, build this giant building here
in
their town. They're saying this much smaller building. No, it's so interesting, this juxtaposition.
Yeah, Samad Sayed, president of the McKinney Islamic Association, is trying to remove the request for the time being. So he's going to withdraw the request and relook at it. And it's going to be interesting to see how the two different religions, one a Christian religion and the other a Muslim religion, he said, we were shocked and surprised about the amount of opposition that we saw on that night. And that was 60 people.
Yeah.
This is nothing compared to what was in the Fairview. And I wonder how many Fairview residents went over to McKinney to protest this.
I don't know that.
We didn't expect that, because the day before we had a Zoom call with the Stonebrook Crossing HOA, and there were 4 or 5 people who showed up, Syed told the Observer. So they had a homeowners association meeting, met with them prior to the meeting, reached out. I'm guessing, I don't know, it doesn't say, but I'm guessing they didn't send their lawyers over to tell the homeowners association that they were going to sue them if they allowed them in, which is why they were so shocked, because they met with them and had no real opposition.
Yeah, and I think they also mean that not that many people showed up, so it didn't seem really to be of concern. Maybe there weren't people with signs at that meeting, so they were kind of blindsided.
Which is unlike the LDS. Quite a few people showed up to the meeting, and they were all visibly disturbed by the threats that were made to them. So it should not have caught the church by any surprise after that meeting.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, the very, very first meeting, the town meeting where they talked to the residents, they threatened to use the DOJ and means to sue. I mean, that's there. We have that on tape. So that was the first interaction. Okay, a lot of misconceptions. Religious assembly is currently allowed under any McKinney zoning type, but the zoning on the plot of land purchased by the association in November 2022 currently caps buildings at 15,000 square feet. Okay, so this is going to be bigger square feet wise, is what we're talking
allowed by code. So
yes.
So I want to point out a couple things here. This is residential, but you can build churches in residential areas, as we all know. But again, it limits the size. The same thing is in Fairview. So McKinney is within their rights to say, no, you can build it, but it has to be 15,000 square feet or smaller. That's our rules. So they are within their rights to do it. And the mosque is within their rights to ask for a larger building. They can ask for a conditional use permit, just as the church did with the temple, but the planning and zoning can turn it down.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. And the picture on the right on this slide, this is their The mosque that they have now, the one with only a few parking spaces that they share with the grocery store and much smaller. This is the one that they're worshiping in right now. So, all right. The group could move forward with a plan for 3 15,000 square foot buildings on the property. So like a campus kind of, but the planned 37,000 square foot facility would be more cost effective, Saeed said. So it sounds like they're kind of weighing it out. It's denied how it was. They could build 3 buildings, that would meet the code. They could start building tomorrow. But again, there's an expense there. And that's why they were trying to build 1 building, I assume. The single building would also be more visually cohesive, said Rick Brown, the architect for the mosque, during the commission meeting. Multiple residents spoke of their concerns that a large facility would be unappealing to look at and drive down property values. At least 4 speakers threatened to sell their homes if the mosque is built. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the law says you can't build anything larger than 15,000 square feet, but evidently you can build more than 1 facility on 5 acres.
Yeah.
And so the Islamic group is saying, well, we could build 15,000. In other words, we could build the same basic outlook, but we're going to make it 3 buildings and then connect them maybe with a covered walkway or something.
Like a campus, yeah.
The areas like a campus. But we think it would be more appealing, and it would definitely be more cost effective for us if we could build a larger facility that adds up to the same square footage, but is more cohesive. And rather than a campus fill, it has a building fill. Right. And they're saying that's what we could do, but this is what we would prefer to do. But they're not saying this is the only option we're giving you and you take it or leave it. That's not what they're saying.
Nope.
They have options. So again, there's room for the town to work out. And if the neighbors are saying, no, 15,000 is what's there, and that's, you have to build 15,000, then that's what the mosque should build. They should conform with the
They'll have to figure that out. Yeah, they'll have to talk about that. So, but 4 speakers threatened to sell their home if the mosque is built. Okay, so they're making their opinion known for sure in McKinney. All right, let's see. I just read that. You read this.
Okay, concerns shared by neighbors. Many speakers shared concerns about the site not being equipped to handle parking demands, resulting in cars overflowing into the narrow streets of the neighborhood. Residents of the Stonebrook Crossing neighborhood said Crutcher Crossing is one of only 2 entrances to their community, and recent developments have already led to an increase in traffic and street congestion. A worship center would add to that strain, many speakers said, while voicing their opposition. Other neighbors' worries included the building's impact on a nearby creek and the privacy of homes that back up to the land. All legitimate concerns to be brought up in a planning and zoning meeting. It's a massive building that doesn't fit in a single family home area, Stonebrook Crossing resident David Noble said.
I'm sorry, that's so funny because we hear that all the time from the McKinney LDS residents. We hear it all the time
from the Fairview residents.
Yes, the Fairview residents. Sorry, saying this temple is a massive building and it doesn't belong in a residential. So, but in this case, the McKinney people that visit the city council there or the town council say, that doesn't matter, right? Build it anyway.
Build it here.
But back in McKinney, for a smaller building, they say it is a massive building and it doesn't belong here. So it kind of makes your head spin, right? I'm getting mixed up. So, all right. And so this is my headline. This is what RLUIPA is actually for. RLUIPA is the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. Is it institution? Yeah, it is. Which is to protect a religion who wants to build a building from a town that seems like maybe it's going out of its way to not let it build. And, we don't know that McKinney's doing that, but this is what RLUIPA is for. And so some of the other statements that were made at the meeting were these. The population of the community, it's primarily Christian, one speaker said. So I think a lot of the community residents would find this, I don't want to say eyesore, but an eyesore. See, now to me, it seems to me this is what the LDS residents are saying, that the residents against the temple are saying, targeting LDS, and they're not. Here they're flat out saying we're Christians and to us this is an eyesore. I mean, how do you read that?
There is zero room for this type of statement in a public hearing.
Exactly.
These people have every bit as right to worship where they want to, as any Christian, as any Mormon, as
Mhm.
we all have a right to worship and to buy a property and to build a,
Yep.
and just because you don't like the architecture is no reason that you get to say, no, you can't build it. They do have the right to argue planning and zoning codes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yes, it's not 15,000 square feet, but this is what RLUIPA is there to protect
Yep.
against. You don't get to say these things. You don't get to make that call to say, we're all Christians.
Yep.
We don't want it here.
Yep.
Just like Fairview can't go and say, oh, we're all Protestants. We don't want a
We
Mormon
don't
temple.
want Mormons. Yeah. And that's what we're being accused of doing. That's what they're being
Yes.
accused of doing. And they're not. They're simply saying, build it, follow the zoning laws, follow what you need to follow. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
And I would stand up against anyone in Fairview who stood up and said, we don't want you here.
Oh, absolutely.
That there's no place for that in
Yep.
any civil discourse on this subject.
Yep. That is
Every
religious
religion
bigotry.
has a right to
Yep.
have their facility.
Yep. That is religious bigotry. And that's why I think this juxtaposition is so interesting. That is an example of what RLUIPA is needed for, to protect from that
protect
attitude.
that
I'm a
attitude.
Christian. Your mosque is an eyesore, right? That is what RLUIPA is for,
And-
right there. Not, I'm a resident, your building is breaking our zoning codes. That is not what RLUIPA is for.
Or RLUIPA is not so that you can, as a church, you can just go and force on every resident and say,
Yeah.
I'm a Mormon, therefore you can't
Yeah.
touch me and I can put whatever I want there. It's
Yeah.
to protect against people not letting you put what is allowed to be there, not
Exactly.
to put something that's not allowed to be there. And that's the way that the church is using it. And I want to point out, this is one person
Oh, yeah, of
making
course.
this statement
Right.
in a town. There's no room for that. I hope somebody at the meeting shut that down or said something to them.
I bet they did. I bet they did. I'm sure they must have.
Allowed,
Yeah.
or that kind of bigotry isn't welcome here. But that's what it's there for. And you can't say a whole community is one way because of something one person said, because I'm sure these things get heated and people here or there are going to say something from both sides.
I know.
But this is, in the case of the church, it's the official church spokespeople coming out saying, that we're being targeted. And that's simply not the case.
It isn't the case at all. Multiple residents spoke of their concerns that a large facility would be unappealing to look at and drive down property values. And I think we read this before. At least 4 speakers threatened to sell their homes if the mosque is built. But some commenters bordered on blatant Islamophobia, such as one resident who worried that his children would be indoctrinated after walking past a mosque. And ignorance, like the resident who commented that the month of Ramadan would be a nightmare because of traffic.
Yeah. So again, no room in here to say, if I walk past that, I could be indoctrinated, therefore you can't build. There's zero room for that. Zero room for that in Fairview from either side, making those threats. So this is what RLUIPA is for, is when we see this type of and I think all of us can be united on that front to say that's not right.
Yep.
That's not right to deny a religion as long as they agree to adhere to the zoning code. It's not right. So the residents have every right to say you're not adhering to the code. We'd rather see 15,000 square foot buildings. That's why we zoned it that way. But they also have the right to say, oh, no, that bigger building looks nice. We think you should give the conditional use permit because the neighbors support it and say, oh, we can live with it. That's why we have these meetings. But if there's clear opposition, the town should look at it and say, okay, here's the conditions, come back with these and meet these conditions, which is exactly what Fairview said. They said, come back with a design that is 60 feet to the top of the spire, and that the roof line is at the 36 feet or whatever it was that they told them. They gave them the specific parameters.
And we'll approve it right away.
Rubber codes, we'll approve it. Of course, they have to meet the lighting codes and the traffic studies and all that has to play into it as well. But if you meet all of those requirements, they not only are they going to, they have to approve it.
Yep.
because they can't discriminate. And I don't think they have any intention of discriminating. They told you, here's what you have to do.
This is
Come
all
back.
you have to do. Do it and we'll be good. Oh, why don't you read this? I thought this was good because it's like we said, we don't want to characterize McKinney incorrectly. These are just taken from the article about how the meeting went. We do have the footage from the meeting and we've been meaning to look through it. Maybe we will and do some updates to it, but I think the article is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it says that Reverend Mally Baum, a senior pastor at Trinity Presbyterian Church in McKinney, urged the chamber to be open-minded about the zoning request. During her time to speak at the meeting, she shared that her 100-year-old military veteran father wasn't so sure about the Muslims before she took him to an iftar dinner, the evening meal during Ramadan. He and Abdul, a colonel in the Iraqi army who was forced to flee with his family because of their cooperation with the U.S. during the Iraq War, were fast friends. We've spent many Thanksgivings together, Baum said. If you're frightened about the unknown or the unfamiliar, I can promise you that your lives will be enriched by the addition of these gracious and conscientious citizens. Baum's church sits less than a half mile from the site of the proposed mosque on the main road that runs outside the Stone Brook Crossing neighborhood. So again, great story. And I think there's a place for it. But again, the city needs to come down to, are you meeting our zoning codes or not? And that should be the only test, not what faith are you? Not it's, are you meeting the zoning requests? And if you aren't, and you're asking for a variance, are the neighbors that live around it supportive of us changing the codes so that you can have that larger facility?
Yeah, it's really a pretty simple, it should be a simple issue, but it's not.
And that's where her testimony there is important because
Yes.
her church sits just down the street, and so she has a place, a concern for it, and is simply voicing why she thinks it should be there, just as the residents who say they think it shouldn't be there have a right, as long as they're addressing these codes in the zoning, not any religious doctrine or beliefs.
Yep, that's true. So going forward, what will the McKinney Islamic Association do? This is
I'm guessing they're going to sue.
I think that's it. They've got their lawyers. Yeah, because their request for the larger than, the zoning would accommodate building was denied. So what happens next? They're in the very same position the LDS church is right now. Over in Fairview, their request was denied. Here in McKinney, the McKinney Islamic Association was also denied. And I'll have you read this one, Landon.
Syed plans to slow things down by pulling the agenda item to make time to finalize a site plan, conclude a traffic study, and hold neighborhood meetings.
Wait, what?
So they did the same thing the church did. They asked for a continuance and said, we need more time. But unlike the church that said, oh, we're going to cut 15 feet off the temple and then blame the city and went and hired a law firm.
Yeah, we have a slide about that after this one for sure.
And started sending out letters telling their members, don't worry, the lawyers have our back. He said, we're going to finalize a site plan to show you what we're going to make changes to try to meet. We're going to have a traffic study, conclude that, and bring that here, not hide it like the church has done. Right. The church hasn't shared the traffic study. And they're going to hold neighborhood meetings to talk to the neighbors, to hear what they want to see, to maybe explain why they think a 37,000 square foot would look better than a 15. They're going to actually involve the neighbors and listen. Amazing. Syed is optimistic, even if he was blindsided at the Planning and Zoning Commissioning meeting. He said the McKinney Islamic Association has organized a team to help educate neighbors on their community. Other facilities at the mosque, such as a gym, food pantry, and personal growth classes, will be open to the public regardless of religious belief. They're saying you're welcome to come and use our facilities as part of it. You can come use our gym. You can come to any of the personal growth classes we have. Come and share with them. The LDS, no, you can have an open house. You can come tour it, and after that, no access except the lobby. You can come and sit in the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby, right? We have to sing that every time. I've spent a lot of time in the lobby recently.
And what are they doing? A food pantry. Oh, if you need help with food, come to our facility. Now, I can hear the LDS saying, well, you can do that. Yeah, you can go to the steak center, which is already there and is already available. You don't need a this immense facility to have the food pantry, because nobody can come and request food. And usually from the LDS, in order to get food help, you have to be
You have to,
LDS
yeah.
to
And I
get
would
it.
say a stake center doesn't offer that. I mean, they do have a gym, but typically it's just, the members that can go play basketball. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
but the
definitely not a
temple does
community
not
center.
offer any of
Yeah.
these.
This seems like a community center, honestly. So,
Yes, they're opening it up to the community to
yes.
enjoy the building that they're proposing to build. There's a lot of misconceptions, misinformation, Syed say. I do feel that most of the neighbors are good-hearted people with their concerns, and we respect those and will try to answer those. There will always be people who don't like you, and I don't think we can do anything about that. But our job is to educate and tell people who we are and try to be good neighbors.
Oh, good neighbors. There's always that word, right? They use that all the time over at the McKinney Temple.
Yeah, but evidently from the LDS, being good neighbors means threaten to sue you.
Gonna
And
sue
then
your ass,
and
right?
then
That's
tell them that your kids are being threatened at school, and that what does he say? He says, hey, they don't have a fast to say, oh, help these good-hearted people of our neighbors.
Right.
They say, help the hard-hearted people of the
Yeah.
Of our city to change their mind. It sounds like the Islamic group is saying, we're going to try to educate and work and befriend the people and see what we can do to be good neighbors, not send our lawyers and have secret meetings where only we're invited to tell our members how we're going to quarterback this so that legally we can challenge this.
Yep.
If the rezoning request is not approved, Syed said, he expects that the project will move forward with a design featuring multiple smaller buildings that complies with the existing zoning. He noted that this plan would include an increase in construction costs. Wow, we're willing to bear the additional costs to comply with the codes to be good neighbors. Wow.
Yeah. I was going to say, where have we heard that before? But we haven't. So
maybe that is how you, in your fast, maybe this is what we should be fasting for, is that the church itself can utilize some of these same strategies that the Islamic community is utilizing in McKinney, in the very same community that they are a part of.
Yep. Take a page out of their playbook. I like that. I just had to highlight this. Other facilities at the mosque, such as a gym, food pantry, and personal growth classes, will be open to the public regardless of religious beliefs. And I think we covered that. It sounds to me like they really do want to be a good neighbor and be a community center without any stipulations on it. So this is a great list. Landon kind of already went through this going forward. So we just talked about going forward, what the McKinney Islamic Association is going to do. They're going to hold neighborhood groups. They're going to try to educate, befriend. They are going to do traffic studies. And then eventually, if honestly the town is not going to approve it, they're going to comply, and they're going to make smaller buildings, a series of them in a campus, even though it's an additional cost. So
notice
that's the plan
Rupa
going
wasn't pulled up one time.
Not one time, when they could, given some of those statements there at that meeting, honestly, because that's what it's for. So eventually this mosque will be built, whether it's 3 buildings or not, because the important thing to them is to get it built so that it can be utilized by their members and by the community. So they're going to do that, whatever that takes. So why don't you read your list, Landon, right here, all in one place, of going forward when the Fairview Town Planning and Zoning Board denied the LDS Church's application. Unlike all these things I just listed that the Islamic Association did, what did the LDS Church do?
They asked for an extension.
Okay, that's fair.
They hired a powerful real estate law firm.
Okay.
They offered to change the name of the temple and cut off 15 feet from the tip. A snip, just a snip.
It was a snip, 15 feet. 9%.
They're going to circumcise the temple, basically.
They're going to circumcise it. Well, that is biblical. About 9%, as we calculated over on Nemo's show that one day, they offered to take off 9%, and they offered to change the name, because there is a little, people in Fairview are like, it's in Fairview. We don't necessarily totally get along with McKinney. There's some other things going on there. Why is it called McKinney? So they did offer to change it. And I should have put that slide in again, because I love it so much. They didn't say what they would change the name to. We, of course, predicted on another podcast, it would be a beloved, iconic Texas name, the South Fork Ranch LDS Temple. That's what we predicted for the old show Dallas. So, but we don't know. We don't know
You
what the name
notice that when they turned it down, the Islamic community didn't say, "Oh yeah, well we're going to have Rupa and we're going to change the name to the Fairview Mosque."
Yeah, well, that's true. They didn't say that. So
They sent out a press release calling these significant changes and claiming Fairview town officials would no longer meet with the LDS,
they did.
which is not true. They said they would meet individually, but not with their lawyers.
Right.
And they also cannot legally meet with the church in a quorum because that represents an official town meeting that has to have an agenda and has to be open to the public.
Yep. So just the fact that the Fairview Town Council members are following the rules of the town, the sunshine rules, the church has spun that in a press release and says they refuse to meet with them anymore. That is not true in the least.
They created a website full of gaslighting and misinformation. They said they were going to inform the community, and yet you get pictures and they show, here's the temple from 2 miles away. Look, it's not that
It's
big.
not very big.
You can only see it sticking up that much. Oh, look, if you stand behind this tree, you don't even see the temple.
And I have to say, Josiah, oh my gosh, if you haven't found his content yet, he has done some amazing things. It's kind of like he's caught the temple bug. And I've been trying to reach out to him. If you're watching this, I emailed you, email me back, or somebody get me in touch with him. But he did a really, really awesome, just explanation of that, these ridiculous cardboard cutouts that look, if you're 5 miles away, it's only this big. And look, I'm standing behind this tree. I can't see it at all. So yeah, it's just ridiculous, but he did a great job with his content there.
Yep, they called for yet another fast.
Another fast,
third,
like you said, the
fourth
skinny
one to
members.
date. I can't keep
Skinny
track.
members. Yep.
And this just happened a day or two ago.
A couple days ago.
They submitted an 81-page document explaining their interpretation of Rupa and outlining their intention to sue the city. And they can say, we never said we're going to sue the city. You have an 81-page document with all the court cases substantiating Rupa and the Texas Freedom of Religion Act or something like that. It's clear what their intention is and what the message is that they're trying to send to the town is that we will sue if we don't get our way. Not, we will go back then and make changes to our site plan and relook at our traffic study and inform the citizens and keep them posted of what we're going to do. None of those things are what they're doing. They're simply going to sue, and then they fast that there's no contention when you sue. Not a lot of people, there's not a lot of people who don't get contentious when they get threatened with lawsuits.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Yep.
So there's one easy way to stop the contention. Say, you know what, regardless of what the outcome of this is, we will comply with the ruling of the city.
And that is what the McKinney Islamic Association said. So very different reactions. Okay. So now we've gone through all those articles, but here's where it gets really interesting. I don't know if you guys remember a couple months ago, the mayor of McKinney sent a letter. I think he used his office letterhead. There it is, right? The office of the mayor. He sent this letter to the town council members in Fairview as they're dealing with the application for the temple. Now, we learned that he was encouraged and asked to write this letter from an LDS friend and business associate.
And former mayor pro temp of McKinney.
And former mayor pro temp. That's right. So the mayor, the acting mayor of McKinney, sent this letter that Landon read before, and I'm going to have Landon read it again because I love it. We like to call it the gushing letter. It's a very positively affirming letter for why the LDS temple should be allowed to be built, even though it goes against codes, it goes against zoning. The mayor in McKinney wants to reach over to Fairview and say, you guys, you got to build this. It's incredible. You've got to do it. It doesn't matter that it doesn't meet your codes or your zoning. You've got to do it. So do you want to read this wonderful letter again, Landon?
Okay. And this is the mayor of the city that just said they couldn't build the mosque. Is that correct?
That's what I'm trying to understand. This is the mayor of the city that did not approve through the Planning and Zoning Board the mosque. But this is a letter from a couple months ago expressing hope, sincere hope, that the temple in Fairview will be approved. So let's see what he says.
He said, "Dear Fairview City Council members, I am writing with an impassioned plea to express my wholehearted support for the variance request submitted by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints regarding the increased height of their proposed steeple. As mayor of your neighboring city, I cannot overstate the significance of the remarkable contributions made by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to our communities, both in terms of their outstanding philanthropic endeavors and their unparalleled commitment to community engagement. The tireless efforts of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in bettering the lives of residents throughout our region and beyond are nothing short of awe-inspiring. From providing essential resources to those in need, to spearheading initiatives aimed at fostering inclusivity and unity, the church has consistently demonstrated an unwavering dedication to uplifting our community in every way possible. Their compassion knows no bounds, their generosity knows no limits, and their impact knows no measure. The countless lives they have touched and the countless hearts they have uplifted stand as a testament of their unparalleled commitment to service and their unwavering devotion to the betterment of humanity.
I feel like I should be doing this, like,
yeah,
like for a flag. It's so passionate.
Furthermore, it is crucial to acknowledge that a similar variance was granted to Creekwood United Methodist Church for their steeple. Yeah. By extending this same courtesy to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we not only uphold the principles of fairness and equality, but also affirm our unwavering commitment to protecting the religious liberties that form the bedrock of our nation. And it should be pointed out that the United Methodist Church variance was not granted.
No. We did a whole episode with Nemo about that. Yeah, there's a misunderstanding there.
Despite the baseless assertions of some that the increased steeple height may negatively impact surrounding property values, I vehemently refute such claims. On the contrary, the presence of the church and its towering steeple serves as a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity, and a testament to the strength of our community spirit. Far from diminishing property values, it enhances them, imbuing our neighborhoods with a sense of character and charm that is simply unparalleled. As a nation founded on the principles of religious freedom and tolerance, it is incumbent upon us to stand firm in our support of the rights of all religious institutions, all, including the Islamics, institutions to practice their faith freely and without fear of persecution or prejudice. By granting this variance, we not only honor the profound contributions of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to our communities, but also reaffirm our commitment to building a society that celebrates diversity, embraces inclusivity, and cherishes the fundamental liberties that define us as Americans, and demonstrate an equitable process considering the previous variance granted to Creekwood. In closing, I implore you to consider the immense significance of this variance requested and to approve it with the same passion and conviction with which the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints serves our community each and every day. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your unwavering dedication to the well-being of our community. George Fuller, Mayor of McKinney.
I feel like we should say, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Now that's something. And he definitely talks about religious freedom. And he definitely talks about, you've got to give this variance. You've got to let them build higher than your zoning codes allow because of religious freedom, because of inclusivity, all of that. That's very interesting, don't you think?
I bet that the Islamics can find a dozen churches in McKinney that have steeple heights over 45 feet.
I'm sure
so they're not even asking for a variance from the providence that's been set.
No, they're asking for a square footage, change in that, but I don't believe height at all. So
otherwise they meet the codes.
I think so too. So what's our next slide? I think I put one more in here. So yeah. So this is our hope. I think we're saying that we are hoping that there might be a letter from the McKinney mayor for the mosque too. Don't you think?
Oh, I can't see how he can't
exactly
at this point, and tell his own planning and zoning committee, because evidently he didn't weigh in beforehand, or he didn't have much influence on his own planning and zoning commission. So why isn't he and his residents up in arms supporting the mosque that's being built there that more closely meets their codes than the LDS temple meets the Fairview codes. And, you got these AI pictures here. If they were trying to build that's on the right-hand side and those turrets were 173 feet,
Yeah.
I would be right there
Same
going,
kind of thing,
all right,
right?
this is a problem. Everyone should be concerned about this.
Right.
But the
But
plan
they're
they're
not.
submitting doesn't seem like that big of a variance. But again, if the neighbors own, then that's why you have zoning codes, so everyone knows what they're buying into. And the Islamic Center knew what they were buying into when they purchased the land. And it sounds like they're willing to make whatever changes are necessary to get it approved.
Yep, I think so too. But I just kind of feel like, if he's writing out letters, he may as well include one here. He could pretty much almost write the same letter, only white out, the church and put in the McKinney Islamic Association.
And
It all applies.
It does, yeah. And if the Islamic Association ends up using Rupa to sue the city, I think they have a good argument here.
They do. If
Because their
really
mayor just wrote
residents,
a letter saying we should be allowing everybody to build whatever they want
That's
in our
right.
cities.
That's right.
Especially
I don't
religious.
know. I don't know if they're aware of this letter. I mean, there's lots of politics back and forth, and they probably don't pay attention to what's going on in the other town. I'm talking about the Islamic Association,
Yeah.
but I mean, how would you feel if you were them and you were like, wow, we were just turned down here in this town, yet the mayor has supported, way beyond the variance and much larger. Yeah. It's just, it begs a question. It's a conversation, and I'm sure there are more nuances to it than maybe we're aware of, but on the surface, we just thought it was a really interesting and timely comparison, given that both of these plans, the McKinney Islamic Association and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Temple, are going to the town council, one in McKinney, one in Fairview, on the very same night.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it may not end up in McKinney because they're asking for time not to sue them, but to try to change the minds in the community through education, try to change the site plan, try to get feedback so that they can make these changes that have been requested of them, to try to find something that meets their needs as well as that of their neighbors.
Yep, it's interesting. Who knew we'd be watching so many planning and zoning meetings, so many town council meetings, learning so much about city code. It really is fascinating. Maybe we need to go back to school and become city planners. You're like, oh no.
I think I want to be a Rupa lawyer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's pivot and change careers right now. I think we can do it.
So I, like everyone else, can be a good neighbor.
That's right. Well, in that 81-page document that the church put on their McKinney Temple website, that's a really interesting document. I know Nemo's going over it very closely, and we're planning to be able to go on an episode with Nemo and kind of dissect it, because there's a lot in there that needs to be unpacked, I think. Do we have any other slides, or did I end on that one? I'm hoping for a letter from McKinney.
That's it.
I think that's it. Awesome. Yeah. And you're right to point out this mosque that I was just having so much fun on AI, because these are just beautiful buildings, and so
I've seen multiple mosques in the Middle East, and I've been in, you see the picture here on the left, just beautiful buildings when you go in. And even though Islamic nations seem to have a bad name in the United States, when you get there and meet the people, there's bad actors there, just like there's bad actors in every faith, but it's a beautiful religion and they're beautiful people, and it's they have every right to engage in their form of worship as the LDS do. No one's saying the LDS should not have a temple. No one is saying that. What they're saying is it needs to comply with the city codes.
Yeah. I have to be honest, when I was preparing to go to the temple in 1991, I really thought that a celestial room would kind of look like that picture on the right or the left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of thought it would be like that. I mean, just this beautiful, instead, to me, when I went in there, I was like, this is kind of like a hotel lobby. It was very different. I really thought it would be way more, I don't know, just inspiring and different from everyday life,
And I would say the Salt Lake Temple was that way. When I went in, it was like, wow, this is really impressive. And then they tore it all up, gutted it and shredded everything. And so I don't know what it'll look like we'll get to see when they have the open house, I guess.
Yep, we'll get to see
The
and
only
all
time
that.
we're allowed in. Yep.
Otherwise, let's all go to the lobby.
Lobby. And the lobby of the temple does look like a lobby.
Does look like a lobby.
Not even a
Yes.
hotel lobby. It just looks
No,
like a
a
lobby
lobby.
of a doctor's office or something.
Yeah, I came across a post the other day. I saved it and I thought I might send it to some of the residents in the city. It was about this idea of being open to the community or being, inclusive and welcoming of everyone. And it was a guy who was a post-Mormon, but all of his family were LDS, and they had just gone, it described in the post, they'd gone on kind of an adventure. It sounded like maybe a hike, something where they were outdoors. And so then they were going to go to the temple. I'm not sure if they were going through a session or they were just going to go. They must have been going through a session. So the rest of this gentleman's family changed clothes into temple clothes, into Sunday clothes to go to the temple. And they drove to the temple. Now, the poster, he was going to meet his wife and child. They were going to drive in, I think, like exchange child, maybe. He was going to take the child and the wife was going to go with the family. But anyway, the bottom line is that this person was dressed still for the outdoor adventure, kind of some grubby clothes, some sweats. He'd been outside, kind of baseball kit. He definitely didn't look like everybody else who was there. So he said that he went with his family dressed up in church clothes into the temple lobby, right? And he was there with the family. They were all talking, they were all laughing, but he definitely noticed some glances, to the side. Like, who are you? Why are you here? You're wearing sweats and a t-shirt and a baseball cap. Just he felt that he could tell that people were a little uncomfortable. He was in there, even though he was with his family. So then his family goes on further in the temple. He goes out to wait on the corner of the temple for his wife and child to come pick up, do the child exchange. You know how we all do that. And he said when he stood there, it was super interesting just to see the reactions. He saw people walk way on the other side of him. He saw a youth group that looked at him, looked nervous. I think he said went back, got an adult who then walked past with him. And the adult said, "How are you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just good." He said that he saw people look at him go back into the temple as if maybe they were going to say, "Hey, there's this guy. He doesn't, he looks like maybe he's homeless," is what the guy thought. Maybe he saw somebody get into their car and not drive away, but sit there and stare at him. He said it was really interesting. And then his wife showed up. She's dressed in Sunday clothes, gives him a big kiss. The kid is there, the daughter, I think it was, and they do the handoff. And then it seemed like people relaxed. But he just said, how interesting. How interesting is that? How inclusive is that? How open to the community is that a person who isn't dressed like everybody else is looked at with suspicion, fear, reported maybe, watched, And maybe he was super sensitive to it, but he definitely said he wanted to make a post and just draw attention to this. And I'm not surprised at all. I mean, we've seen the gates, right? We've seen certain populations kept out. We've heard of people being told, maybe same sex holding hands can't be here anymore. So I think it's interesting for residents to be aware of that no matter how much they say everyone's welcome, that isn't the case.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, they have security around the Temple Square.
Yeah.
There's actually public walkways, but they're owned by the church.
Yeah.
And church security will escort you off if you do anything that is not within their standards. So yeah, it's definitely that way. But again, if they want to build a commune and limit it to their members, and it's within the codes, by all means, let them build it. But that doesn't mean that they have to trample on everybody else's rights for their property rights of, we built in an area that limits to this and we expect that to be enforced.
My gosh, my dog is snoring. Can everybody hear that? It's not me, it's my dog.
Oh, is it that boring? We've put your dog to sleep. We probably ought to end then.
Rupa.
We can be a little short this time because we're going to be the next Tuesday is going to be August 6th, and we will be at the McKinney Temple meeting, probably outside because you have to have tickets to get in. And it's like you have to call in at a certain time and everything to get those. But the newscast is going to be carrying it live. It'll also be streamed on Mormonish on our website, our normal time. but I'm sure it'll go quite long. It's where the church is
Yeah.
going to present their plan that supposedly they needed the extra time to come bring their plan that would meet the requirements, and they're going to present it and see what.
And lots of testimony,
a lot of testimony
back and forth,
thousands of people. They've
Yep.
told everyone in 10 states, every
Yep.
LDS person in
More
the
than that, I think.
DFW
Yeah.
Metroplex to
In
head
white
down
shirts.
there
Yeah.
in their white shirts.
So our idea, so the residents were so gracious and invited us down there. And so, like Landon said, on Tuesday the 6th, the newscast, the Mormon newscast will be live streaming this. It'll start at 5 o'clock, where we'll be outside, probably hopefully talking to some people, just giving everybody a sense of what's happening. Then they will live stream the actual meeting itself. And like you said, Landon, we don't know for sure that we're actually going to be able to go into the meeting, but we'll be there, to talk to people and see what's going on. And then we'll also, of course, do wrap up afterwards. And so, yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch. I think a lot of you guys watched Lone Mountain, that just happened a week and a half ago. And it's pretty interesting to see how things work, especially since you guys are all up to speed now on everything that's happening. So this should be big. And if the council votes no, then starts the next phase, right, Landon?
That's where the fast goes away and the lawyers come in. Yep.
That's right. And my favorite
They take
phrase,
it out of the
we're
Lord's
going to sue
hands
your ass.
take it out of the Lord's hands and put it in the hands of
In
the
the
lawyer.
lawyer's hands, out of the Lord's hand, in the lawyer's hands. Yeah. So everybody can look for that. That is next Tuesday at our regular Mormonish podcast time, only an hour earlier because the pre-show or whatever, just us being there outside talking to people is going to be at 5 o'clock. So, and I guess we should also mention that this week is the Sunstone Symposium. This is at the University of Utah. This starts on Thursday night on the 1st. Is that the 1st? I think it is, with a keynote speaker of Laura Satilli, The Moon Turns to Blood. I have podcasted with her and about her book on the Mormon Stories Book Club. This is going to be really amazing. It is not too late to get tickets. It's so interesting. And I have to say that a lot of our guests that we've had on Mormonish before are going to be presenting at the Sunstone Symposium. I was trying to list them off. Let's see. We've got John Lundwall, Rob Lauer, Ganesh Sharian, some of the guys from the documentary about Joseph Smith and herbal uses. Who else? There's just several that when I was reading through the program, I was like, oh my gosh, we've had a lot of these people on Mormonish. I'm going to be on a panel, so that'll be really fun. And it's just a really good gathering. So if you're interested and curious about that, you can go to the Sunstone Symposium website. I think it's sunstonесymposium.org. I'm not sure exactly. If you Google, you'll be able to figure it out. And it's up at the University of Utah, and we will be there all weekend. So it's Friday, it's keynote speaker Thursday night, and then lectures and presentations all day Thursday and all day Friday, all day Saturday, a final picnic, right? There's going to be some storytelling, just all kinds of events. I mean, if you're even remotely curious, go look at the schedule and you'll be like, damn, I don't even know what class to sign up for. Oh, Summer Rain is going to be presenting. I think I saw her name there. And so, yeah, there's a lot. There were a lot of people that we've had on Mormonish before.
Yeah. Did you say John Lundwell?
I think I said John Lundwell first. I think
you were naming them so fast. I was
John, Rob, Ganesh. Oh, Lars.
Lars Nelson,
Lars is going to be presenting. Yeah, he was on Mormonish before. Yeah, I swear if I look down the program, yeah, it's a lot. So anyway, anybody that's in the area, really fun. Get tickets, University of Utah. Come say hello to Mormonish if you happen to see us, if you're there. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be good. So, all right, I think we covered it. Have we covered it?
I think so.
I think so too. So please comment and let us know. What do you think about this unusual juxtaposition with the mosque trying to be built in McKinney and being voted no, and then the support for the LDS Temple just a little ways away in Fairview? It's kind of an interesting scenario. We'd love to hear what all of you think. Please like and subscribe to Mormonish Podcast. And if you'd like to be made aware of when new episodes come out, you can hit that notification bell. And you can also help financially support Mormonish Podcast. We have links in our show notes to Donor Box. We are now finally a 501(c)(3), and we absolutely so appreciate those of you that make a donation or a monthly donation. It helps us so much. And we love you guys. You guys are amazing. And of course, we have our merch store where we have our Mormonish mugs and hats and sweatshirts and all that fun stuff. If you want to show your Mormonish publicly, right? Is that I'm always curious if anybody actually, I know people buy the merchandise if they wear it outside and people go, "You're what? What is that?" I'd love to hear that. If anybody's ever commented on anything, let me know. Send us an email. You can always reach us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. So, all right. Thank you, Landon, for co-hosting, and we will see you guys next time at the Fairview's Town Council meeting, won't we?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, it's going to be great. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mormonish. We really appreciate our listeners and would love to hear from you if you have a story you'd like to share. You can email us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, mormonishpodcast.org. And don't forget to look for us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Keep joyful, everybody.